Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Mark Brown, a partner in the Banking and Finance team and also Head of Projects. I'm here with my colleague Hamza.
Hi Mark, hi everyone, pleasure to be here with you today. I am Hamza Al-Haboubi, I'm the ESG consultant at Al-Tamimi and Company Law Firm, and today we will be discussing the green financing and ESG market trends in the UAE. To start off the discussion, Mark, tentative steps have been taken by regulators, market participants, and finance markets in being core enablers and accelerators for investments and implementations on sustainable investments. Now, from your experience and from your insights, what do you think are the key drivers that green finance has gained market prominence in the region and specifically in the UAE?
Really starting with the big picture, the UAE and many of the Emirates have made significant commitments to net zero emissions by 2050, but also changing their mix of electricity and power. Right now, the majority of electricity and power generation is done by traditional fossil fuels, but with the streaming of the Al-Haboubi nuclear plant and various solar programs in principally Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and also commitments by the UAE to have at least 50% of their energy mix come from renewable sources. Dubai going even further with a 75% target by 2050. This has created lots of opportunity for green investment. On top of that, globally, especially in Europe, there are specific targets that the banks have to invest in green projects and green related transactions. And the UAE and the wider GCC, given the massive investment that's being made in renewable energy, that creates opportunities for various green loans and green related transactions to occur. And then on top of that, picking up on the theme of what the government targets have set, the UAE would like to be a central financial hub for green investment, and so we're seeing various regulators take the lead to try and make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. And Mark, I think there's also the factor that leads to the commitment of the UAE to becoming net zero by 2050, and this is also backed up with the opportunity that the UAE has in shaping the global agenda further this year once they host the COP28 summit. So Mark, broadly speaking, issuers and borrowers have options to use various green instruments and structures which have a fundamental distinction between the use of proceeds instruments, which focus on raising proceeds for sustainable projects, and then there's the target linked instruments which focus on sustainability linked targets. Now, from your perspective, what are the options and what are the frameworks available?
Sure. The real differentiation is between if it's a debt-related instrument, so green bonds or borrowing from a bank or a syndicate of banks on a direct basis, or alternatively, from an investment perspective, you can have green funds. And you mentioned use of proceeds. So use of proceeds would be there's a bond issued for a particular green purpose. For example, building a solar plant or another type of renewable energy project. Or you can have funds, a green fund raise that has a specific purpose of investing in water resources in a particular region of the world. There are different taxonomies used to describe the types of investing or lending that can go on, and a lot of the reason for having these taxonomies is to ensure that the projects go to an actual green purpose or environmental social governance purpose, and investors can have faith and lenders can have faith that the proceeds are going to be used for an actual green purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings my thought to another raised concern currently in the market, which is greenwashing. And I believe that these instruments basically tackle and mitigate the risk of greenwashing through using best-in-class structures, which primarily involve the issuers having a sufficient green expenditure that is backed up with a robust sustainability strategy or a business plan. And then it's more on how do we align the green expenditure with the best-in-class taxonomies out there. As an example, there's the EU green taxonomy that the green expenditure could be aligned with. And then it's more on segregating the green proceeds with that of the non-green expenditure, which comes down to how do we distinctly disclose the use of green proceeds and continuing to invest in the brown or so-called the transitional investments.
And that can be important because the example I used before of a bond specifically for a solar project, easily compartmentalized, but if you're lending to a large corporate group and that corporate group is using it for a particular green project, but they also happen to be involved in many other they have many other projects, many other businesses that may not follow the green characteristics. It can be hard for businesses to actually compartmentalize that part of their business, and there's always very strong reporting obligations on a borrower or on a recipient of investment to make sure they can report and invest back, so that the classification can be maintained throughout the duration of the investment or the duration of the loan. So linked to the concerns about greenwashing, what are we seeing from industry bodies and regulatory bodies to help market participants and facilitate the use of green finance?
I guess on a regulatory policy, one can see the broad and the specific. So for example, ESG disclosure must be published by the public joint stock companies listed on either the Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange, ADX, or the Dubai Financial Market, DFM.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a desire to have the UAE be a leading financial hub, and certainly in the ADGM we're seeing them lead on that. In 2019 they published the Sustainable Finance Declaration, and more recently they've implemented the ADGM framework, which is tied to that. So ensuring that ADGM companies disclose their ESG initiatives. It only applies to companies over a certain threshold, but companies that are under that threshold, they can also voluntarily disclose. And on top of that, the ADGM introduced classifications for green bonds, green funds, and climate transition funds as well, and they all rest on commonly accepted taxonomies in the green finance space from Europe and elsewhere.
And there is a slight uptake on green bond issuances in the UAE, which is easily observed. Some of these examples include the ADX first green bond listing worth over $700 million, which was issued by the Swehan PV Power Company. Another example is the Dubai National District Cooling Company, Tabreed, which published its green finance framework, enabling it to issue bonds and loans to finance the sustainable projects around areas of contracting, operating and acquiring sustainable projects. And there's also the Abu Dhabi Masdar Green Real Estate Investment Trust Agreement with FAB, which is valued at $200 million. And the aim of that is to promote the growth of sustainable income-generated real estate assets.
That's right, and we can see the growth. In 2021, there was only approximately $600 million worth of transactions, but then in 2022, we saw 15 deals, and the value of those was more than $8.5 billion. So, we can only expect more growth in this area as more projects come online.
Yeah, and I think the fair share of the 2022 deals was the issuance of the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is the public investment fund. So they debuted their listed green bonds on the London Stock Exchange, which was valued at $3 billion US. And I think, Mark, now leading to the largest climate summit, which will be held in the UAE, the COP28, what we're seeing right now is what we're anticipating an increase in the number of sustainable finance investments and issuances that would be able to direct the flow of capital towards sustainable projects and clean energy projects.
I agree. And I think we'll leave it there for today. Thank you, Hamza, for joining me. And thank you all for being with us as well. We hope you found it informative. Any questions, feel free to reach out to Hamza or myself or your usual Al-Tamimi lawyer. Thank you.